Amazing. Hi everyone, welcome to the BAE Systems webinar. So today we're going to be talking about success in 60 days at BAE Systems. So if we go on to the next slide. So what we're going to run through with you guys today is a couple of sections. So first of all, we've got one of our current graduates, Abby, who's going to go through her her career journey and her first 60 days within BAE Systems and what she got up to there. Then we've got some others joining us for a bit of a panel discussion. So that'll be about 25 minutes, covering some key topics around the graduate scheme and undergraduate scheme, and basically the first 60 days, what you can expect, etc. So we've got another grad joining us, Camilla, and then we've got two of our managers, one of our early careers managers, Michael, and also one of our senior capability managers, Ian, as well, who will be part of the discussion. Then after that, we'll have a quick section around our recruitment application and an overview from two of our graduate recruiters who are also on the call. We've got Holly and Kyle, who will give you some sort of an idea of what to expect if you are putting in an application and what to expect on the full process if you do apply. And then finally, we've got a Q&A section. So there is a chat function. So throughout the session, if you've got a question, if you want to put that in, and we'll be able to cover everything at the end. So if you go to the next slide. So I'm going to pass you over now. So I said one of our current grads. So Abby, so over to you, Abby.
Hi everyone. As Jenny said, I'm Abby. I'm an aerodynamicist at BAE Systems. I'm currently on the grad scheme. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I got to where I am today and basically what I'm doing, just to give you a wee bit of a taste on that. So, career so far. So I started off obviously doing my GCSEs and my A-levels. I originally did biology, chemistry and maths. Thought I wanted to be a doctor, realised I hated blood and that was never going to happen. So I moved into the idea of engineering. My dad's a pilot and I absolutely love like anything spacecraft, aircrafty. So I was like, right, aerospace sounds like a really good way to move. So I started my degree in aerospace engineering at the University of Sheffield. So I started on the bachelor's degree, but then at the end of my second year, I decided that I wanted to do the master's. So I moved on to the integrated master's course. I've kind of listed just underneath that bullet point a few of the things that I did while I was at uni, just because I think that's really important. And I've talked a lot about BAE, so like my part-time jobs and my hobbies and things like that. So they're just on there, won't go through them. But I did the aeromechanics stream, so that took me into a lot of advanced aerodynamics modules and propulsion-based modules, which kind of drove me into the aerodynamics field. So I applied for BA probably, I want to say March last year. And between March and May was obviously when I was submitting my dissertation for my fourth year. And then literally, I think it was the 2 days after I submitted my dissertation, I got an interview for BAE. And then about a week later, I found out that I'd been offered a job, which was really amazing. So I graduated with my degree last year in July, and I started at BAE in January of this year. So can someone move the slide on to the next one, please? I don't know who has control. It's not me. Is anyone able to move the slides on? Can you see that?
I can see your day-to-day work, yeah.
Oh, can we go to the graduate scheme one, please? Sorry. I can't see what's going on the screen, I don't think. There we go. Can you all see the one that says graduate scheme?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so like I said before, I'm on the graduate scheme. I applied as an airframe engineer, so I'm sure someone later on is going to talk a little bit more about the actual application process, but I applied as an airframe engineer. And they gave me the option to move into materials, structures, design, or aerodynamics. So I went into aerodynamics. a little bit about the scheme, if you don't know, it's an 18-month scheme for anyone that's just graduated from uni. You get one substantive role, so you don't rotate about like some graduate schemes do, but I find that quite, I find it more that you can get, how do I put this? You can really get your teeth into the role a little bit more. I find that if you were to move about, you would just kind of get into the role, finally figure out what you're doing, and then you move in. And I find it great that you can really get your teeth into that role in 18 months and also really build yourself into the team. And there's lots of support as well in the grad scheme. So you get some coaching, you get personal effectiveness training, which is essentially 5 or 6 days where you go and you get taught about how to, be more personally effective. So you've got like conflict management, team building, all those soft skills that you need. So I think that's great as well. And you get lots of time for doing stretch assignments, which I'll touch on in a second. So can we move on to the next one, please? Thank you. So I'm, like I said before, an aerodynamicist. So I work in the air sector. So in aerodynamics, you can either be in the in-service aircraft, so that's working on aircraft that have already rolled out, or the future aircraft division. So I'm in the future aircraft division. I work in a team of 11 in Prestwick, so up in Scotland. It's one of our satellite sites. If you can't tell, I'm from the northeast of England, so I did relocate to Scotland. But yeah, so I'm in the team of 11 up there. It's a hybrid job, so I can work from home. I'm working from home today, but I can go into the office as much as I like as well. And each of us in that team will cover all of the subdisciplines in aerodynamics. So I work in flight mechanics and stability and control, which is one of many different disciplines. So you've got performance, you've got configuration, you've got control systems, aerostructures. So I'm working on stability and control, which is essentially making sure the aircraft that we're designing is maneuverable and how the control surfaces work to maneuver the aircraft. I do a lot of work for data set creation. I use a lot of data from wind tunnel. I use a lot of data from CFD. I compare these a lot. And at the minute, I'm doing a lot of work in aeroelasticity as well. So the great thing about the grad scheme is that I am moving about subdisciplines in aero. So I'm not just siloed into one area. I'm getting to do all sorts of different work. And in that box in the top right corner, I'm talking about stretch opportunities. So I'm a STEM ambassador, which means that I can talk to schools and teachers and basically promote degrees in STEM and jobs in STEM. I'm also a university representative. So for Durham University, I organise some events for them to tell them all about careers at BAE and industry. I also have done some work for the Women in Engineering events. So I've spoken at the event this year, which was really exciting. And I also got to work, and this is such a highlight, at the Air Show. So in Air, which is just down the road from me, is a huge air show every year. And we got to work there on the STEM truck and talked to lots of young people about coming and working for BAE or jobs in the aerospace industry. So can we go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on my day-to-day work. So before I go into the actual work that I'm doing, I'll just tell you what my day-to-day looks like. So every morning we have a team meeting where we discuss tasks. So it's a really quick team meeting, and everyone dials in the team of 11, and we just talk about the tasks that we've got upcoming. If anyone needs any help, if anyone needs some interdisciplinary data passing over from config, from controls, whoever needs that, we talk about that, and we talk about issues, and we talk about how we're getting on with the tasks that we've done so far, which is great because it's a lot of face time with your team, with your line manager, and with other people that you're working with. Then I do a lot of MATLAB coding, so that kind of is a really big part of my job, working, as I said before, with wind tunnel and CFD data, so getting a grasp on how those pieces of data are taken from, like how how we get the wind tunnel data, how we work with CFD, and then how we compare those together and extracting the data and making it into a more understandable data set. And then I do a lot of maths, as you can imagine, engineering, and lots of maths working with that data that I've got. And then writing technical reports as well. So explaining how we've got the data, explaining how we've used the data, and looking at the results and how that's going to impact our design of an aircraft. So just the two kind of big pieces of work. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I don't want to bore you. But the two really big pieces of work that I've done in my first sort of 10 months at BAE. The first one that I did was a big section of analysis for control surface interference. So essentially we're taking wind tunnel data from a very early concept design, and we're calculating how the control surfaces interfere with one another. So your aileron and your elevator and your rudder, and we're calculating a term that we can put into a data set to represent the interference between those in flight and how that's going to affect the performance of the aircraft. So as I said before, comparing the wind tunnel, comparing the CFD data, seeing how they match up, seeing if they're saying what each other are saying, which is what we need really. And then looking at the scaling effects between a wind tunnel model and an aircraft model. Obviously, a wind tunnel model is so much smaller, so we've got to scale up. If we're going to use CFD, we need to make sure that it's representing the wind tunnel well, and that also when we're scaling it up to that full aircraft model, that it's not having any issues and not impacting the results that we have. Then also Mach effects. So of course, when you've got a wind tunnel, you can only really do sort of low Mach numbers. So then doing some analysis to see how they change up the Mach range, and then how we can apply a factor to represent that. And then, of course, as I said before, presenting and reporting that analysis. So making sure that it's other people in the company are able to read that and do it again. And the other thing that I've done was crosswind landing analysis. So basically seeing how the aircraft's going to behave in a crosswind and what kind of rudder angles and aileron angles we need to combat that. So that was a lot of logical coding, which is something I'd not really touched on in uni. So it was something new that I had to learn. And the great thing about BAE is, and being on the grad scheme, is that you get offered a lot of opportunity to join MATLAB courses, which I've done, and lots of support and retraining, because like I said before, it wasn't something that I'd really touched on in my degree. So I got a lot of support to do that training, having been on the grad scheme. And it was a lot of taking the control angles and basically seeing how they stretch out across the crosswind range. And then also tying in lots of different things like gear effects, interference terms, and air elasticity to make sure that we're resizing those ailerons correctly. So that was a lot of yapping, but that's essentially what my last 10 months at BAE's looked like. That's the work I've done, and that's what my day-to-day kind of looks like, and how I got here in that process. I think that might have been the last slide. Not sure. Can't remember.
Yeah, that was the last slide. So thank you so much, Abby.
Yeah,
I always learn something new from all of you grads when you do presentations, and it was really interesting. So really appreciate you joining. So the next bit we're going to go on to, if you can go on to the next slide for us. So I'm going to introduce to you a couple more people. So Abby's going to continue on this session and answer some of the questions as well. But we also have one of our other graduates, Camilla, on the call, and then we've also got two of our managers to provide a different perspective. We've got Ian, who's a senior capability manager, and also Michael, who's works within the early careers and skills team as a development lead. So what we'll do first of all is I will let you other three introduce yourself. So just tell you a bit about who they are, what they do, and what their role is. So if we start with Camilla, if you could just tell us a brief introduction about yourself.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Camilla. As it says on the slide, I'm a graduate PLM engineer, and that means product lifecycle management, which when I first explain that to everyone, no one knows what it is. I don't entirely know the full functionality of our team, but we basically look at how we design naval ships and coordinate all of the different projects so that it's all running smoothly. We look at any changes and we try to implement them back into the projects. So right now I'm a little bit more, you can think of it like project management. So that's where I'm at the moment. So at university, I studied product design engineering, which is kind of fitting for the role. And right now in this term. I am 2 months or nearly 3 months into the job, so I'm much earlier than Abby at the moment. But yeah, that's a bit from me.
Amazing. So we'll come back to you with some questions shortly. So I'll next introduce Ian, who we've also got on the call. Oh, I think you might be on mute, Ian.
Yes, I am.
There's always one.
Right. Ian Williamson, Senior Capability Management Engineer within the Through Life Support Engineering. But there's one of me for each of the value streams. So there's 4 main value streams in air engineering. One of our primary roles is to find you the jobs. So you apply for generic roles within a value stream. So, for example, Abby, I think she will have applied for air and space product value stream. And then we will look at your CVs from your interviews once you've successfully passed, and we'll find the role for you in that area. So with me, you'll apply for a Through Life Support Engineer. I'll look at you, your CVs, and I'll find your role within my teams. But there's one of me for each value stream. What we will do as you enter this business, we'll come and meet you, hopefully have a chat around you, and we'll sort of monitor you, your personal development from a distance. So you have your line manager who deals with you day to day, but functionally we sit slightly above them and slightly away, and we'll monitor your progress and we'll help you develop and put a really good career path going forward. Whether that career path is 5 years or 50 years, we'll help you get to where you want to get.
Amazing. Thank you, Ian. And then we've also got Michael on the call. Are you able to speak now, Michael?
Hi, I'm hoping everybody can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I was having a few technical issues, so I was a little bit concerned I wasn't going to get through to everybody in for a minute. So my name is Michael Harris. I am the graduate development leader for our submarines business, so based out of Barrow-in-Furness. So whichever business unit you've applied for, essentially there'll be an equivalent of me in the business unit that you're looking at. I've worked in early careers for the last 13 years, so I've worked like right across the breadth of our offering that we provide. So I've worked on apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, education partnerships, corporate responsibility, and I've also got 2 separate tenures with the graduate program as well. So currently my role in relation to graduates, I suppose in a nutshell, it's a facilitation role, and there's 3 key things that we look to do. So we look to ensure that the submarines business is getting everything that it requires from the graduate program, so that we're getting everything we need. That the kind of principles of what is a corporate program are being upheld, so ensuring that the graduate program is delivered identically across all of our different businesses. And third, but certainly not finally, is that graduates are getting everything that they require from the program as well, that they're getting all the development that they need, that they're getting the support that they require. So ultimately, at the end of your program, you're going to be a well-developed, engineer, a nuclear engineer or mechanical engineer, project manager, whatever it is you've chosen to come into.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael. So I'm going to cover off a few questions around sort of your experiences as part of sort of the graduate program and your involvement in it. So I'm going to start with our graduates. So can you give us a bit of an overview about sort of your first maybe 60 days at BAE? So talk about like your first day, the transition process into your role. And if we start with Camilla, as I know Abby's talked for a little bit on her experience.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, when I started in September, I had first 2 weeks, and we call that immersion, where we get to meet about 30 other graduates, and we kind of just get to know each other. Like we're all thrown in, have no idea what's going on, but you realize that everyone is just fantastic. Everyone is so friendly and lovely, and then you do a lot of training. So we got to take lots of confusing things. For me, for engineering, it was some technical information, but generally it's about the company as a whole. And we talk about the 8 BAE behaviors, our values, who we are as people, which really sets you up for the environment that you work in the future. So after those 2 weeks, I did go into my team, which is the PLM function, and I'm able to work with just a really small team. But it's fantastic for the support that they give us and the training that they still provide to this day. So as Abby mentioned previously, we do personal effectiveness training. We do, I actually had an optional training for trade awareness training, which is about welding. We go on to manufacturing sites between Scotstoun and Govan, and that's where I am at the moment, in Scotstoun. And you get to make your own things. So I was doing plasma cutting, I was using machinery, doing pipe work, and it was just fantastic. So highly recommend. But otherwise, we had mentorship schemes and yeah, other things like reverse mentoring. So you'll find all about that in the future as well. Yeah, that's probably it from me.
And Abby, anything to add around sort of your initial experience, maybe 10 months ago, if you can think back when you first joined us?
God, yeah, it feels like a long time ago. But I think that the great thing was that they also gave me a lot of support as someone that was moving up here, and my line manager as well was very understanding of that. Obviously they're really understanding of us being grads, but I think for someone that was moving so far away from home, by myself to a new place, got a lot of support from that as well. But Camilla pretty much touched on everything, so yeah.
Amazing. And then from the flip side of it, so we've obviously got Ian and Michael on here, sort of like, what's your experience obviously with all these new graduates joining, and how have you been able to get involved with them? Maybe start with Ian.
Yeah, I guess for me, my tips would be just get involved, enjoy it. Immersion, really enjoy that. From my feedback, it's really enjoyable. Get to meet all your peers, get to see what the scheme is all about proper. But then once you've left that, you're into the business proper. That's where work really starts. Get to know your line managers, get to know your teams, and just enjoy it. Ultimately, you're here to work, but you're also on an apprenticeship scheme, a graduate scheme, where you're learning. Yeah, we understand that you're a start of your career, you're here to learn. Just get involved, ask. Just pester us. That's what we're there for. It's just help you learn. Really enjoy it. No one wants a boring job, do we?
Absolutely. And Michael, obviously you're involved with the early stages of the graduate. So what sort of like your insight on that, the initial stages of their journey?
Yeah, so essentially for your first 2 weeks should be on immersion, which is run by early careers, so myself and my team or equivalent in the other business units. What we're looking to do with you for those first 2 weeks is to give you not just all the typical stuff that you'd expect from an induction program. So we'll onboard you with your IT, we'll sort out your security passes, etc. We're looking to try and give you a really well-rounded view of kind of who we are, what we do, how we do it. And I always kind of ultimately say that whilst you're going to get an awful lot of information thrown at you within those first 2 weeks, the anticipation is that with all the best intentions in the world, you're not going to kind of hold on to all of that. But my stated aim really is to just ensure that you come away from those first 2 weeks feeling really enthused and excited about moving actually into your role and what you're going to be doing in your job. Then once we hand you over to your placement on that first day, within those first couple of weeks, they're going to be looking to agree a set of SMART objectives with you, so something that you'll be monitored against over the course of your first 12 months. But just kind of to reiterate some of the stuff that Ian said as well, is like, nobody is expecting that you're going to come into the business as the absolute finished article. Nobody's expecting that you're going to come in and absolutely hit the ground running. Some of you may very well do that, but for some of you, it may take a little bit more time to kind of get you to that point where you're able to do that. So there are no stupid questions in those first few months. It's all about showing an inquisitive mind, being keen to learn, and generally what you'll find is that for the vast majority of people working in the business, you'll find somebody who is going to be really receptive to questions and really friendly as well. So yeah, my best tip is ask lots of questions.
Absolutely, that's very, very good advice. So I know that our grads have touched on this in the last answer, but can you tell us a bit more about sort of like the support you've given, obviously joining the scheme out of university, having sort of that real life job role, following on from university. So can you tell us a bit more about that? Maybe Abby first this time?
Yeah, I think that I think I mentioned it before, but the training on the job, obviously we all have our degrees and we all, you know, we know what we're doing, but I think there's a huge jump from being in uni and actually working. One of those massive things is independence in your thinking, and I think that's what's great about the personal effectiveness training, which we mentioned before. I think it does get you to think that little bit more about being not relying completely on yourself, because of course, as someone just said, ask your managers questions, but I think that having that independence of thinking is something that maybe didn't have as much in uni, and that was a soft skill that I've definitely developed. Something that I forgot to mention before is the grad workshop, which also builds on that. So it also builds on, so that was for me last month, and that also does some more personal effectiveness training. It also allows you to network a lot, which has helped me, because it means that I've got a wider network of people to ask questions, to help me develop as a person. So I think that's probably a big thing.
Absolutely. And what about yourself, Camilla? I know you touched on some of the training and support that you got, but would you like to expand on that maybe?
Yeah, just well, a little bit. I guess I did go into quite a bit about the training, but on the support side, I can't stress enough how great every person here as an individual. Like you're always free to just ask questions. Like as Michael was saying earlier, and Ian, there is no stupid questions. Like everyone is just a very supportive environment. There is lots of ways in which you can seek help via our websites and via anyone on the team. And your managers, they put in an awful lot of effort to develop you as a person. So everything is kind of broken down step by step. It's a very easy situation. And say if there's something that's not easy, it's available to kind of break that down further, and that conversation's always open. So it's just the entire environment of BAE is really supportive, inclusive, diverse. It's fantastic.
Amazing, thanks Camilla. So I'll move on to another question around the programme in general. So obviously everybody on this panel has had involvement in the graduate programme, either as a graduate or supporting graduates. So what do you think makes the BAE Systems Graduate Programme different or special? So I will start with our managers this time. So maybe Michael first.
Yeah, so there are probably multiple things, to be honest, that make us stand out. So I've got a pretty good view of kind of a lot of the other graduate programs within the industry. One of the key things that really makes us stand out is the fact that you're coming directly into a role. So you're coming into a role, the anticipation that that's what you're going to deliver over the course of your program, which ultimately means you can, well, essentially it's, I suppose the clue's in the name, you can kind of accelerate your career. You can come in, you can grow a dedicated network, you can feel like you're adding real value early on in your role as well. And essentially what you'll find is that over the course of your 18 months, you can really begin to see how your career can develop over your time in the business. So it's a really positive picture. It is something we do slightly differently, I think, from a lot of other graduate programs. But I suppose the proof is in the pudding to an extent that we do have a really positive retention rate for our graduate program. It's well above the industry average. So yeah, hopefully we must be doing something right, and I do think it makes us stand out a little bit. And then the other kind of key thing really is it's the business, and within that kind of include the people within the business. Genuinely, BAE Systems is a fantastic company to work for, and they really do support their employees, and that's not something that I would say without genuinely meaning it. It's a fantastic place to work, and you're going to get an opportunity to work with really interesting, friendly people on some super exciting projects as well.
Absolutely. Ian, anything to add in terms of working with the grads?
Michael's pretty much nailed that, hasn't he? So yeah, cheers, mate. I would say it's everything there. This scheme helps you manage your career. You can map it out as you want to do it. You have the likes of myself, Michael, the line managers. We're just there to support you manage your career. If you want to become the next CEO, we'll give you the tools to become the next CEO. If you want to be the next chief engineer, we'll give you them tools. it's all laid out in front of you to take. And I think that's the beauty of this scheme. Is you're in control of it. It's not us. It's nobody else. It's you. That's the main thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sort of nails it, that it is basically that you can do so much with the graduate scheme, and there is so much support available, and there's so much opportunity available as well, as you've heard from the guys. So back to the grads. So what obviously experience in the programme, obviously at different stages between the two of you, but sort of what have you found that you found quite different, or something that you weren't expecting as part of the graduate scheme so far? Maybe start with Abby.
Yeah, I think I said this before, but comparing to grad schemes that a few other of like my cohort mates from uni are on, we don't rotate. You stay on your substantive role for 18 months, which for me works really well, as I said before, because I can really get my teeth into it. I'm not finally getting into it and then being moved elsewhere. I really feel settled in the role even after 10 months, and settled in my team as well. We socialize a lot in my team. We go out every month for a curry and beers, and it's great. Not just for the beer, but also for the socializing. I really feel like I get on with them on a personal level, which is great, especially when there's a huge age difference between a lot of us. And we all come from very different places, but I think that that kind of social life and being here for only 10 months but feeling like I have some proper relationships built, I think that's really important and really, really great.
Amazing. Camilla, is there anything you'd like to add about your experience?
Yeah, so my highlight was going back to trade awareness training. So for me, those 2 weeks were fantastic. Just like the absolute laughs you get to have with everyone that's on site. It's fantastic. And they come from all over. You just meet so many characters. It's brilliant. But at the end of the 2 weeks, we had kind of like a project to make whatever we wanted. So we were working a lot with steel, or just like doing a lot of metal work. And you get all of these different functions, or for manufacturing, so the welding guys and the apprentices doing this and that, and it was just brilliant. And at one point, I had about 6 people shoved in this tiny little booth, looking at my project going, I don't know what it is. What is it meant to be? And I was making a lantern, which it was fantastic. Okay, it turned out really, really well. But the fact that the apprentices were just their own characters and could not figure it out, they thought it was a hot air balloon, just made me crack up, and I loved it. So that's my highlight.
Amazing. I think leading on from that, obviously Camilla shared a highlight. From the rest of you guys, what would you say is your highlight, or something very memorable, either working on the grad scheme or working as part of it? Anybody like to jump in? Open to all.
Yeah, so for me, like my entire career really has been around kind of developing young people. So I must enjoy quite a lot about it. I'm hoping. I would say certainly I really enjoy immersion. It's fantastic getting to know such a wide range of people coming into the organisation. There's 4 separate intakes for graduates, so we do quite a lot of immersion. Get to meet lots of people. Does kind of feel like it keeps you young a bit at times. But I think the most enjoyable part for me is that, given I've been in the role for kind of, or in early careers for sort of 13 years or so, is when I can look back and look at a graduate who is now in like a senior managerial role in the business. Be like, only 5 years ago, I remember you on day one, and I played a part in kind of developing you into those positions that you're pushing on for now. So that's where probably the most satisfaction comes from.
Amazing. Anybody else like to add anything on that?
Yeah, I've had 2. I've had one. There was a graduate. She came in, did really well in a job, but I went onto a call around sustainability, and part of one of her stretch assignments was all around this. And there she was, leading up this massive forum with some really senior people within BAE. And there she was, leading the whole forum. It's like, hold on, I remember you coming in on day one. That's not what I remember. And then I have these calls quite regularly from function level. I've met you guys on your first couple of weeks within the business, and as you come into exit scheme, I'm looking at your exit roles, your exit salaries, stuff like that. and I'm picturing that graduate that I met in the Ask or wherever on day one, and it's like I'm really, really, really proud, really impressed by where they've come from that really shy sometimes graduate coming in looking a bit wide-eyed in rabbit in headlights sort of thing on day one, to that person who we're actually considering about being an engineer, managing engineer sort of thing. So yeah.
Amazing. Anybody would like to add anything on that before we move on to the final question? No? Okay, so finally, before I pass over to our recruiters to give some advice on the application process, finally, what advice would you give those that are looking to join on a graduate or even maybe an undergraduate programme with us? Open to all.
For me, I think that just being completely open to meeting everyone and speaking to everyone, I said that coming from a place of being really gobby myself, so I find that really easy, but I know a lot of people find that really difficult. I think just go into it with an open mind and just meet everyone, because I think you won't expect some of the people to come back into your life later on, but some of the people that I've met, you know, in immersion, and they've come back to me now, or met at the grad workshop, and then I end up working with them on a stretch assignment. Like, I think just, yeah, be really open to meeting lots of different people and talking to everyone is my piece.
Absolutely. That's some really good advice. Anybody else want to add anything?
I would just say that, so it probably seems a little bit like common sense, but in the sort of modern age where we can fire off loads of different applications in one go, it's really important when you're going into an interview to have done some research into the company, know a bit about the products that you're going to be building as an organization, and to really have done some research around the role that you're going into as well. It's easy to slip under the radar with it when you can fire off 1,000,001 different applications really easily, but it's really important, you know, the people you're going to be talking to are going to be passionate about the products that they produce. So it's important to kind of get that passion across as well. And then the other thing is just, you know, be personal, be bubbly. They're not just looking for robots to recruit. They're going to be looking for people that can come in and they can see working in their teams as well. So they're looking for people, not just robots. So yeah, that's my advice.
Great advice. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I do quite a few of the graduate interviews. I would say do your research, not just a 5-minute Google. Like actually have a proper good bit of research around what the role is. Yeah, like I said before, we apply for generic roles within value streams, but drill down into that, what that actually means. So if it's support, what does support mean within it, BAE Systems? Because it might mean something different, what Google pings up. So have a good bit of research, but be enthusiastic, be open and honest as well. But in my interviews, if you don't know it, you don't know it. If you don't know the answer, there's no trick questions though. We're all there just to really, in a lot of ways, I'm looking for a reason, like to give you the job, really.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, just enjoy it. If you get the interview, just enjoy it. That's all it is.
Fab. Any last comments?
Just being yourself, honestly. Like for me, I think that if you get to that stage of the interview, then you've done a lot of things right. And as everyone says on the panel, like you are a great person and everyone at BAE is a great person. Just be yourself, and that will really shine through. And yeah, just enjoy, just have a really good time, get to know people, get to know your interviewers, and resonate with the part that you're applying for. So yeah, that's it from me.
Amazing. So thank you so much. That brings our panel session to an end. So thank you for sharing your insights. So that actually leads really well to obviously your advice for people that want to join. I'm going to pass over to our recruiters. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So I'm now going to introduce you to Holly and Kyle, who are on the call, who are going to go through the recruitment and application process, because why wouldn't you want to apply now for a role in 2025 with us? So I'll pass over to Holly first, I believe.
Perfect, thanks Jenny. That was actually my first line, so thanks so much everyone for everything you contributed there. And yeah, after hearing all that, I'm sure you really do want to know how to apply. So my name's Holly and I'm here with my colleague Kyle as well, and we're both recruiters on the early careers team. So we just wanted to discuss briefly the application and recruitment process and also cover some of the roles we're currently recruiting for. So next slide please. Excellent. So this is just a bit of a timeline of our application process. So obviously stage one, your application. So you will put that in online and that's via our website and that should take around 30 minutes. You will then get invited to complete our interview and games section. So that is obviously recorded video questions, and then it will be also a gaming assessment side as well. That should also take you around 30 minutes. So far not too long to submit that application. Then you'll receive instant feedback. So upon completion of the interview and games, you'll get like a report based on how you did during that. And then if you were then successful, you will have a screening call with your recruiter, and then we will schedule an interview based on your suitability and also hiring manager availability in the role. And then you'd complete your live interview. So that will be face-to-face or virtual. Some are now going back to the face-to-face side, which is nice. But also we're still doing some virtual interviews, and they're usually around an hour and 15 minutes. And then hopefully when you completely smash it in your interview, you'll receive an offer, and then that's the kind of end stage. And then you get handed over to these these guys for the actual immersion period and things like that. So yeah, next slide please. Stand over to Kyle, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you Holly. So as it stands, we finished the recruitment for our January and our April of 2025 intakes, and we're currently working on our summer internships on our undergraduate placements for June 2025, as well as our graduate roles for our final intake of the year in September 2025. So these positions can be found on our early careers website, and it'll contain all details of the role, including the locations, the salaries, as well as the degree criteria. So for undergraduates and summer internships, to be eligible, you do need to be returning to university following on from the placement. And to be eligible on the graduate programme, we do require a minimum of a 2-2 in the relevant degree. And of course, you do need to be and you must graduate as well before you get started on the program. So as you can see from the map on the top in the top right hand corner of the slide there, that's just some of the various business units and sites that we do the recruitment for. So just listed here, so we've got Air, which is in Wharton, Salisbury, Prestwick, Brough, Filton, and Towcester, I think that's how you say it. So we have our electronic systems business unit, which is based in Kent. Submarines, Barrow is our main sub-site, and we do have satellite sites in Broadoak, Filton, Frimley, as well as Weymouth. Our maritime business unit is based in Portsmouth, Great Barrow, Cowes, and Broadoak. Naval ships is in Scotstoun, Portsmouth, Dorchester, Broadoak, and New Maiden. And head office is in Frimley. Land is based in Glasgow, and our shared services business unit is in Preston, and finance is in Salisbury and Wharton. There we go. Can we have the next slide, please?
Perfect. So as Cal mentioned, we filled a lot of our roles for 2025 with our current focus on our summer intern and industrial placement positions for June, and then our grad positions for September 2025. So as you can see from this slide, we still have some key roles available, which we're still recruiting amazing talent for across our locations. So I won't kind of read all of them out there, but I'll just pick out a few. So for summer intern and industrial placements, we have got electrical engineer, hardware engineer, naval architect, systems engineers, weights engineers. So as you can see, the variety is there. So if you see something that you really like, we're still accepting applications for those roles. And then also obviously graduate positions as well. You can see obviously the full list there, but aerospace integration engineer, nuclear primary build, software engineer, site engineer, testing commissioning engineer. So you can see the variety there as well in our grad positions. So yeah, I would definitely check the degree criteria and security restrictions before applying, but please get on our website and apply for those roles as soon as you can, and see if you've got a role that's of interest to you. Next slide, please.
Well, thanks, Holly. So as Holly mentioned on the previous slide, our applications are now live. So the vacancies are now live for our undergraduate positions, including our summer internships and our industrial placements, as well as the September graduates. So please get your applications in as soon as possible, and you can get onto our website at www.basystems.com/graduate, and there it'll list all of the vacancies available. So that's it from myself and Holly. Thank you everyone for listening, and we wish you the very best of luck with your applications.
Amazing. Thank you both for that insight. I hope that's been sort of informative to know what to expect if you're going to put in your application, which we really hope that there's something suitable there and something that interests you, and we can see your applications coming in soon to be reviewed by our lovely recruiters. So that's it from the actual presentation and from our panelists. Again, thank you for that. So as I said at the start, if you do have any questions that you want to ask either our recruiters or any of our panelists, or any general questions, you can add them into the chat function. I'm just going to have a little look and see if anybody's put anything in already. Just read this. So someone's asking around mature students joining the graduate scheme, and if there's a specific route that they have to go on, or any advice for them to join on a graduate scheme. So I don't know, from a recruitment perspective, I don't think there's any difference for a mature or a sort of a younger student applying.
No, there's no kind of restriction on when you've kind of graduated and things like that. As long as you've got that degree, you know, you're suitable for the role. And we have had a few, as you would say, mature students who have done the graduate scheme and done really well. So yeah, it's the same exact route. It doesn't matter when you've graduated.
Amazing. So we've also had a question around flexibility of movement. So asking, what is the flexibility like for movement into engineering roles? For some context, let's have a look. So basically moving within departments. So as Abby mentioned in her section, so you would stay within a specific area for the 18 months, but there is opportunity to move around once you've completed that. I believe that's right. Somebody wants to correct me if that's wrong.
Yeah, no, that's right. There is some opportunity though to potentially go on like short-term secondments as well. So if your line manager and yourself identify a different role that it would be useful to move into for a period of time to gain some knowledge and also to develop yourself, as long as you're going to be gravitating back into your original team and you're bringing that information back into the team, then there is some scope to be able to do that as well.
Amazing. So I've got another question around how to make your resume stand out in the crowd. So I believe with our application process, we don't ask for a CV.
No, so it's all based on the online application. So that will obviously kind of capture all your information, and there is space to put like about work experience and skills on there, but we don't ask for a CV for that.
Amazing. Somebody asking around the qualification. So they're currently studying but won't graduate until August. Would they still be able to apply for a graduate role before then?
Yes, you can apply. As long as you're graduating and you've got your certificate in hand before the start date, then that's absolutely fine. So you can apply and go through the process as long as you graduate and have that result in time to start, essentially.
Amazing. Somebody else asking about specific graduate jobs. So as we mentioned, all the roles are on the Early Careers website. So they're for all the current 2025 roles. If there isn't something there for you at the moment, you can join onto our talent community. So I will send an email out following this session for you to give you an opportunity to join the talent community. So that will essentially allow you to get first look of new roles. So as we mentioned, we also have January and April intake. So later on next year, there'll be a new application window with some new different roles on there. So there might be something suitable for you at a later start date as well. Got a few more questions coming in now, see if we can cover them. What was this one? So how much experience should we have before applying? Do you need a lot of experience working or volunteer experience?
No, there's no work experience necessary. It's a graduate program. It's a training program essentially. So, like I say, the main criteria, of course, is getting that relevant degree and getting that 2-2 or above.
Absolutely. So we've got a question around eligibility to apply for a finance role. So I believe we do have finance roles, a finance role scheme. If there's any available this year?
I feel like you're the best person to answer that, Kyle.
Yeah, so I do the recruitment for the finance grads and undergrads. So our graduate intake is in August of 2025, of course. That one has closed now, just due to the amount of applications we had fairly early on. But you know, for the following year, if you are interested, there's no sort of degree criteria on that. It's open to all degrees. Of course, you do need to obtain that 2-2 or above, but like I say, it's open to all degree criteria.
Absolutely. Just seeing if we've got any more questions. So somebody asking about the locations that were listed. So I think that all our locations in our business units have different locations. Some of them, there are multiple business units at different locations. So when you're looking at the job roles, it'll list either one or multiple locations that the role can be worked out of, and that's for each different specific business unit. Okay, let's have a look. So are the online interviews assessed by artificial intelligence? And how do you decide who's invited to a final interview?
So HighView is assessed by AI and it formulates a score for you based on that. So it kind of combines your video recording and your gaming assessment side, and it comes up with a score, and then you get ranked in either bottom, middle or top tier, and it's it goes on kind of the high scoring candidates get taken forward.
Amazing. And then we've got a question about somebody they've applied for a role, they've completed the first stage and they believe an interview stage would be next if they're successful. Is there any advice on how to prepare for an interview?
With regards to your interview, whether it's face-to-face or virtual, your recruiter would let you know that. As I mentioned earlier, they last around 1 hour and 15 minutes, and that's kind of broken down into a competency kind of behavioural part, which will be your first 6 questions, and then there's also a technical aspect, which will focus on the role itself. So that's kind of the breakdown. How to prepare. So for the behavioural questions, have a look on our website at our company behaviours. Have a think about examples when you've exhibited those behaviours, and also then have a practice using the STAR interview technique in kind of giving those answers. That's what your interviewers will look for. And then also for the technical questions, so as I say, they are role specific. So I would recommend making sure you read that job spec and understand it inside and out, the actual duties and responsibilities. Have a think about when you like the technical knowledge you've got and apply it to those kind of scenarios. Also make sure you research our projects. I know the guys touched on that. Make sure you really do understand those, and kind of throw that into the questions as well. So that's kind of like the best way to prepare. What stands out is someone who you can really tell has prepared. I know Ian touched on that before. You've really kind of done that research, not just your 5-minute Google. You have really kind of put a lot of time into it, and you can really tell that at interview. So I'd say that stands out really, someone who's really done their research and knows the stuff.
Amazing. Somebody obviously else asking about standing out at interviews. So I know Ian does a lot of interviews. Is there anything from your side that would make a candidate stand out to you?
I think like Ollie's just said, you can tell when someone's done their research. You can tell when someone's really enthusiastic about it as well. So know the job, know the business, know what we're about as well. That will soon come across. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. And just be yourself.
Absolutely.
Be yourself. Just be enthusiastic. I'm not just looking at you right now. I'm looking at the potential of you, and that future potential as you as an engineer, if that's where you're off. I do engineering, so.
Amazing. So I think we are nearly out of time. I know there were a few more questions, but what I will say is after this call, again, I will send an email out to everybody that's attended with an opportunity to join our talent community. From that email, if you do have any questions that weren't answered, or you come off the call and think, oh, I should have asked that to one of our panel or one of our recruiters, and then I can either answer the question for you, or I can pass you on to the person who will be able to support, whether that's a recruitment question, a question about the business, or whatever. So that will come across probably in the next half an hour to you guys. So you'll be able to sign up there. And as I said, you'll be able to get all updates if you're not looking to apply just yet and you may be thinking 2026 is my year to apply for a role. You'll get first look at those as well. So all I will say is, once again, thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you to all of you guys for joining, and from Target Jobs from supporting this event as well. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good luck.
Cheers. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.